Yes.
Pyrex and microwave in
I'm
the
out
whip.
here,
You
you
probably
heard?
think I'm baking cake when I'm working the whip. You probably think it's Pyrex.
Whole lot of shots followed after I bust your snot box. Witness a rock bottle. Shoot the fair one, mono the clown.
So who's the best point guard in the NBA? Here's where the GMs just got stupid. You know, they flat out just got this wrong. They got it stupid and they got it wrong. Steph Curry is not a better player than Chris Paul, and he's just not. He's not. He's not a better player. He's just not. He's just not. He's a better shooter. That's it. Like, that's literally all he does better than Chris Paul. He doesn't do anything else better. Nothing. If I said anything on a basketball court said, hey, go do this, and it was not shooting, which Chris Paul is a very good shooter, but if it was not shooting, I would not say, let's have Steph Curry do it. I wouldn't do that. Chris Paul, and let me tell you about the way players are used as well. Chris Paul is used in a way that Steph Curry isn't used. And one of those things is Steph Curry is often used as a shooting guard. Steph Curry is put off the ball routinely. And the purpose of that is to make sure that he's in position to score. It's not because he has deficiencies as a point guard. It's to take advantage of his obvious his obvious high skill level at scoring. But when you say who's the best point guard in the NBA, hey, man, we ain't talking about shooting guard abilities. We're talking about running a team. We're talking about putting other players in position to score. We're talking about setting the table. We're talking about pace, tempo. Hey, we're talking about playing defense at the point of attack. Chris Paul is the best defender at his position. In addition to the points and assists, he's the best defender at his position. Saying that Steph Curry is better than him is just foolish. It's just foolish, and it just goes to show you the mindset of NBA GMs right now. They're mesmerized by the shooting ability. They're mesmerized by the step backs and, you know, him going behind his back twice and then shooting a three in your face. They're mesmerized by those things, and then they're just like, they can't see anything else. But to say that Steph Curry is a better player than Chris Paul is flat out incorrect, because where Steph Curry is very limited defensively, he's not a horrible defender, but he's very limited defensively. That's how a Matthew Dellavedova can get 20 on him. He's a limited defensively. Chris Paul, again, is the best defender at his position, with guys like John Wall, Russell Westbrook, Mr. 94 feet, Patrick Beverley. He's the best defender at his position. And to have him a distant two is embarrassing for the NBA GMs to be that incorrect about something like that. Russell Westbrook 3, and this is very, very interesting to me. Mike Conley, number 4, over John Wall. I'm astonished by that. And not astonished by it because it's that outrageous. I had Mike Conley as my 5th best point guard, and John Wall is my 4th, right? But Mike Conley, I'm surprised he's getting that much respect around the league. I'm surprised. And really, this isn't, by the way, I'm talking about this in kind of an incorrect way, because they ranked them. Really what that means is one of the GMs said that Mike Conley was the best. And see, like Mike Conley's at 3.4%. Somebody said he's the best. Not they said told the GMs to rank them. They just said who's the best one, and everybody put in a vote for one guy. So I don't want to characterize it incorrectly, but it's interesting to me that nobody apparently thought that John Wall was the best point guard in the NBA. It's very, very interesting to me. Who's the best shooting guard in the NBA? We all told you this, that James Harden was the best. It's not even close, and 80% is not close. Klay Thompson being over Jimmy Butler is incorrect. And you notice, what did I say earlier about Stephen Curry? Shooting guard. And I don't mean he is a shooting guard. I mean he spends time acting as a shooting guard. So a lot of what makes him great as a player is his shooting guard skills and not necessarily his point guard skills. So this kind of goes to the point I was making earlier. It's also interesting that a GM, at least one GM, classified Kevin Durant as a shooting guard. That's all. That's just interesting. But to say Klay Thompson is better than Jimmy Butler is just flat out incorrect. And if you check my top 4 shooting guards videos, and I can explain it to you. Who is the best small forward in the NBA? Yeah, this doesn't really, I don't have a whole lot to say about this. I mean, Kawhi Leonard at third, that's fine. I think it's clownish that anybody would have said that, would say, oh, yeah, Kawhi Leonard is the best small forward in the NBA. That's stupid. Saying is Durant is fine, but he was hurt all year. LeBron James at 89%, that's fine. Who's the best power forward in the NBA? I've said this before, it's obviously Anthony Davis, and it's a distant second. It really is LaMarcus Aldridge. But it's just interesting to me that the GMs think that a guy in Blake Griffin that doesn't defend his position and doesn't rebound is a better player than LaMarcus Aldridge. It's interesting to me. And it's also interesting that, the same number of GMs that thought that LeBron James was the best power forward in the NBA thought that Blake Griffin was the best power forward in the NBA. That's all kinds of goofy. LeBron James and Blake Griffin are not the same tier of player. They're just not. So that's just interesting to me. Who's the best center in the NBA? Well, here's the GMs just falling all over themselves at this point. Now they just can't get their minds straight. Marc Gasol and DeMarcus Cousins are not the same tier of player. DeMarcus Cousins is so much better than Marc Gasol. It's a joke. It's unbelievable. There's no comparison. Marc Gasol isn't better than DeMarcus Cousins at anything on a basketball court. He's not better than him at anything. He's not a better defender. He's not a better scorer. He's not a better rebounder. He's not even a better passer. He's not a better anything. Nothing. And all you have to do is watch DeMarcus Cousins play, and you know that. There's no compare. I'll tell you like this. If you put this is what Golden State did to Memphis. After Zach Randolph pinned Draymond Green under the rim and scored on him a couple times, they put Andrew Bogut on Zach Randolph and just said, yeah, fall on him and hack him. The refs aren't going to call it. And they put Green on Marc Gasol. Can you imagine if they put Draymond Green on DeMarcus Cousins for a series? He'd average 40. He'd get 40 a game. There would be no hope of stopping him from doing anything. It was easy to do that to Marc Gasol. You could put a 6'5" dude on Marc Gasol. Here, guard him. He's the worst case scenario would get 22. Big deal. All right, he got 22. Fine, whatever. Marc Gasol is a good player, but he's not that dangerous, man. And when they say this, to say that he's a better center than DeMarcus Cousins and Anthony Davis is just that defies numbers, that defies the eye test. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make a lick of sense. And you know what, too, by the way? If he's so awesome, then why don't somebody try to trade for him or something? Why is you know what? I don't get the Marc Gasol thing. I just don't get it. But you know what? I don't get it because I watch the games. So I don't get it. I don't get why people take this guy who's a good, solid player that's getting 17 a game and try to blow him up into being some kind of Hall of Fame caliber player. I don't understand it. DeMarcus Cousins got 23 a game. And by the way, just to go back to this really quick, DeMarcus Cousins, which player forces opposing coaches to make the most adjustments? DeMarcus Cousins was on this list. These are the same people being polled. No one would ever say this. No one would ever say this about Marc Gasol because he doesn't force you to make adjustments because he's not good enough to. He's not a player that is intimidating and scary like that. And I'll tell you something else before I move on from the center thing. Marc Gasol's not better than DeAndre Jordan either. He's also not better than Dwight Howard, who was last year's best center in the NBA. Now it's like Dwight can't play anymore. Okay. I don't know what to tell you, GMs. I don't know what you're talking about. Now, which team made the best overall offseason moves this offseason? Or I'm sorry, which team made the best overall moves this offseason? It was obviously San Antonio. You're looking at the two guys. Yeah, I mean, they're looking off into the distance and they have an opportunity to win a title. You know, the future is bright. Let's see what happens. You know, everybody else is distant. Everybody else is very distant. You know, the Clippers and the Rockets did some nice things to bolster their rosters, especially Houston. Like I said, Houston has an opportunity to have the best point guard tandem in the league. You know, I look at some point guard tandems like, you know, John Wall and Ramon Sessions in Washington. I like that combination, but man, that Houston Ty Lawson Patrick Beverly connection, I love that, man. I love that rotation. Which one player will make the biggest impact? Hey, you know, LaMarcus Aldridge is going to be the favorite here. It could be Ty Lawson, but, you know, you probably would say 79% LaMarcus Aldridge. Yeah, you'd probably say that. It's not going to be Greg Monroe. And, you know, calling DeAndre Jordan a player acquisition is silly because he was already there. So that's just, I'm not going to address how dumb that is. That's one of those answers that should have been disqualified. You shouldn't have been able to make that choice. What was the most underrated player acquisition? And it's interesting how it's like Ty Lawson, 10.3%. Well, you guys said, though, that you only 10.3% of you said that he was going to make the biggest impact. So I guess those same people all went out and said Ty Lawson was also the most underrated one, right? You know, there's Paul Pierce on here, David West, Amir Johnson in Boston. I don't know. I think all of these acquisitions are all of these players listed can all add something, are all adequate players. I guess, you know what? Let me throw out some names that I think of people that are not going to be really valuable. Let's see. I think Marco Bellinelli isn't going to have any value. I don't think that Tiago Splitter has any value. I don't think that Brandon Wright has any value in Memphis other than being a body. I don't think that Jason Thompson will not have any value because I think he'll get marginalized. Even though I think Jason Thompson really should play for the Golden State Warriors a lot, I think he'll be marginalized. And I think DeMarre Carroll too. I don't think DeMarre Carroll is going to have the impact that some people would have thought he would have in Toronto. I don't think he's going to have a lot of impact either. So yeah, so those acquisitions, and then Roy Hibbert is going to be Roy Hibbert in LA. So those acquisitions, I would say, are going to be the least effective. But for the most part, all of these players listed can all play. They're all decent players, at the very least decent. Which team will be most improved in 2015, 2016? Oklahoma City is the obvious choice because Durant's going to be healthy. Well, you assume, right? So the rest of these, Milwaukee, New Orleans, Miami, again, don't sleep on Miami. I already told you why not, why you shouldn't be sleeping on Miami. I already explained it. Don't sleep on Miami. What was the most surprising move of the offseason? DeAndre Jordan back to the Clippers. Okay. I'm not surprised by that. I wasn't surprised at the time. I thought that it was weird that he was looking at Dallas at the time. I don't understand it. Greg Monroe to Milwaukee. That I was surprised about because I didn't think that was going to happen. That I actually was like, oh, I guess he's going to go there. Okay. David West to San Antonio. That was not surprising because that wasn't surprising. Marcus Aldridge, San Antonio, also not surprising. Tyson Chandler to Phoenix was kind of surprising. Ty Lawson traded to Houston was surprising just because you didn't know where he was going to get traded. Once the draft of Moutier occurred, you knew he was going to get moved, but you didn't know where. And then Wes Matthews to Dallas. Really, really, really wishing Wes Matthews well and hoping for Wes Matthews to recover from that horrible ACL injury. Or I'm sorry, Achilles tendon injury. Who will win Rookie of the Year? We already went over this. Jahlil Okafor is the favorite. Emmanuel Mudiay and D'Angelo Russell, though, don't forget about them. Emmanuel Mudiay and D'Angelo Russell are going to have good rookie years. What's interesting here is nobody's saying Willie Cauley-Stein. That's just interesting to me. Which rookie will be the best player in 5 years? It's interesting to me that nobody thinks that Jahlil Okafor, or not nobody, but there's very few people here that think Jahlil Okafor is going to have that high ceiling. I think it's interesting, the Kristaps Porzingis. I think that's interesting because Kristaps Porzingis, if you watch Draft Night, he was the guy that, the whole panel, Billis, Jay Williams, Jalen Rose, everybody may be able to help you in 3 years. So it's interesting to me that they're projecting that high ceiling for Kristaps Porzingis, saying, hey, in 5 years, he's going to be better than everybody. It's interesting that somebody was willing to step out and make that claim, because that was the thought on Draft Night as well.
Oh yes, Sean Carter is nice, but Sean Price is the best. Sean gone, no Sean Dawn. Sean